right. Okay, hello and welcome to Plugin Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugin Along, we looked at the Festival Buddy 2 save file format. The way quick guides were saving was pretty fragile because it was based off of the order of things in a list. And if you change the order of things, the save file is going to be pointing at the wrong things that were completed. So we documented that and other places that needed improvement. And today we're going to try to make more progress, changing the file format and writing the code that updates existing save files at the same time. As always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. In the meantime, I have... In the meantime, I've requested a lift from a hunter to somewhere a little bit more matching my intro video. Let's see, where is the hunter? The hunter is not in the housing crafting area. Let's see, friends, online. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna go get a lift because Shire housing is great and all, but on Treebeard we've advanced to the Helm's Deep expansion, and so I went ahead and updated the intro video to reflect that. And then here I am standing in Shire Housing. So we're at least going to get something Rohan related. This character hasn't made their way over to Helm's Deep, but it'll be a little bit more Rohan-y. So I'm going to come up here and stare at the mead hall or something while we talk plugins. Awesome. Thank you very much, Rosenblum. Cool. She's out. So I've got some coffee beans to grind here, so... Bavaka's going to be doing that in the background. Okay, so, well, we've got multiple cats on camera, it looks like. We've got Kato, who's above my shoulder there, up on the cat tower. And for anyone who's here, because of cats, we have a Casper. Although, I think he's cleaning himself right now, so. What do you think? You clean? Okay, we're not sure. Okay, I really like the Rohan music, but it's a little intense, so I'm gonna dial that down. Okay, fantastic. It may still be too much. If it's too much on your end of the stream, let me know. Okay. Aaron asks, where did you get that awesome cat tower? Well, in the Netherlands, there are numerous stores and even chains, as you would expect, for supplying cat-related things, and we found this at one of our local pet supply stores. I don't actually remember the name, though I could find it on a map if I had to. But I'm pretty sure it was either heavily discounted or something, or it just wasn't that expensive to begin with, because I've certainly seen cat towers that are like $500 or $1,000, and that feels like a lot to spend, even if you really like your cats. It feels like at that point you're just going off to your local hardware supply store to buy plywood and carpet samples and construct something yourself. Oh, Little Red Hat thinks we actually got it online at the Zoo+.nl. That's possible. We may have... Oh, I think we scoped out the styles that we liked in the store, but then decided that getting it home on our bicycles was going to be more challenge than we wanted to take that day. And, well, Little Red had taken the bus, I had taken my bicycle. Either way, hauling home a cat tower on either of those mechanisms, when you are not prepared to do so, could be a little challenging. So we did scope out the styles that we were interested in, and then we looked to see if we could find something similar on a Dutch pet supply website. So, yes. So if you are in or near the Netherlands, this is not particularly sponsored, but let's see. There we go. So we were using Zoo+.nl, and they have supplies for cats, dogs, and other things. Looks like they have rodents, fish, birds, horses, wild. But you do see maybe more horses per person in some areas of the Netherlands than what I'm used to. Aaron Bard says, on a bicycle, you would look like a siege weapon vehicle. Yeah, I've done some outlandishly weird things. Like I've hauled home a ladder from the hardware store that was at least 6 feet tall, probably a little longer. And I didn't have any solid plans, but I, set the legs on the back of my bicycle, and it just went up behind me, and I just held it. And it's only a few kilometers home, so I just bicycled slowly and had a very tall ladder. So fortunately, there weren't any low-hanging branches. Okay. Agartha says, in the United States, Frisco has some good cat furniture. They've bought 2 cat towers and a cat hammock from them. Nice. Little Redhead would like to invest in some cat hammocks. We have a lot of vertical space in this room that we're not using, and it feels like the ceilings are really solid attachment points, especially with some good anchors and not putting a lot of weight on them. And so there's been a temptation when all of the other projects are done to maybe start installing some ramps or shelves on the wall, and then some pathways, making use of some of that vertical space that the cats can traverse or sleep up there. And a hammock would be a part of that plan. I do wonder how much they would actively use it, but given how often Kato is up there on the cat tower going for verticality, I suspect she would make use of it at least. Okay, so yeah, anyway, I'm sure most locales have something similar to this. This is just what we did. Let's see. Do we have Torin? Really? Well, that wasn't the right search. Okay. So, neat. Let's go ahead and move vaguely in the direction of plugins. Though talking about cats is always welcome on streams like this. Okay. Before we do that, on the Redhead stream, we were told about the latest letter from Orion for a look at 2024. So, last year they put out a roadmap. It looks very much like this, where they listed out the things that they were trying to accomplish in 2023 and the likely timeline that they were aiming for, broken up into quarters. So you've got your January, February, March, April, May, June, July, September, October, and then November, December. October, November, December. I probably missed a month there. So broken up into quarters about when they were trying to do a thing and what the thing was generally. And you can see, they're not necessarily listing a lot of specifics or spoilers in this. So Q3 has additional hobby, but no details at this point of what that might be. Stamp collecting is, of course, always an option. Every time someone sends you a message, there might be a chance that you could remove the stamp from it. Or something. And a maximum of 10 stamps collected per day. You could imagine such a system. Or, optionally, go to a mailbox in-game that you haven't been to before to, have a chance at a stamp. If there's better guesses than that, maybe they're over on the forum, or maybe you have some yourself. Okay, so Q1, 2, 3-player instances. And just as a typography note, if you have a chance to put something like this together, consider spelling out one of the two numbers, like TWO, 3-player instances. Just, feels like it scans slightly better. But I shouldn't complain, I haven't made one of these. Anyway, 2, 3-player instances, also aka small fellowship. 6-player instance, 12-player raid, and Epic continues, Chapter 8. I am so far behind on the Epic, though, that doesn't matter so much. Also, under the category of delvings, they have Elder Slade missions and Epic Malices. In Q2, Spring Festival, woo! And celebrating the anniversary festival for the 17th anniversary, which is wild to think about the longevity of this game. As I like to say, it is the best Lord of the Rings themed MMO available. But still, it's really cool. Epic continues, some more chapters of the Epic, and content pack Catacombs of Umbar. There was a note down here that they were expecting winter of 2024 sees the conclusion and release of all content related to Corsairs of Umbar. So I assume that's what they're saying with the Epic Continues. Midsummer Festival for Q3, the additional hobby, they're hoping to launch that. A fourth profession added. When they were pulling apart the vocations into individual professions so that you didn't have to be a historian necessarily with farming, scholar, and weaponsmith. Right, it's such an oddball one for that. You could instead be a historian, farmer, cook, and there was goals about having the fourth profession as a part of that, and it turned out to, they said it was more complicated than they could afford to do at the time, so here it is in summer Q3. That's going to be really interesting. My main over on Treebeard is probably going to take Scholar, because it's a really good, standalone version to add on to someone who's already got 3 professions that you like. Assuming none of those are Scholar. Okay, further adventures. Could it be the Scouring of the Shire? Well, probably not, but we'll see. Some sort of monster play update. I don't spend a lot of time doing PvMP, but I know the people who do play it are very interested in further updates, so that's really cool. Elf Avatar Refresh is talked about a little bit below in the text. Class updates, VIP updates. They're saying a refresh of our VIP systems. I'm very curious what that's going to be. Q4, new expansions for new regions east of Umbar, or in the eastern part of Umbar. New instance cluster, a new raid. The Epic Continues. There's a kinship refresh, harvest math, and Yule festivals are happening again. And Brett says, I hope they do not mess with the original Hobbit avatars. So far, I haven't seen any sign of that. I mean, it is hard to mess with, to improve on perfection. But we will see where their attention goes after this. At this rate, they may only be able to do one of the races of avatars per year because there's so many other things they want to do. So hopefully, they'll just bump those hobbits to the back of the line. So there's a little textual description of everything that they're talking about here below. I encourage everyone who's interested to read it, but it's not nearly as dense to read as last year's felt. Aaron Bard tried to make a River Hobbit version of your main Hobbit, and he did not come out right. Well, hopefully you were able to find something that works. Okay, so that is 2024. In a nutshell, if it is anything like 2023, this isn't a limit on what they're trying to do, just a guideline so that we know what they are aiming to do, and if they are able to do extra things on top of that, awesome. If some of these things slip for whatever reason, that's sort of a part of this as well. Pamela Ella thinks hobbits need more curly hair options. I could see that. I'd be 100% down with increasing the options available for hobbits, for instance. But I could appreciate if you really like the current look of the hobbits, that changes might be a little bit unwelcome. Okay, so that is available in Twitch chat here. If you do !letter, you'll get links for the English, German, and French versions of the letter. Aaron Bard worked at it for a long time and could not make anything they liked. The faces came out concave. My goodness. Well, it could be that River Hobbits might see a little love going forward as well. So, always interesting to see what comes out. Okay, for that expansion pack, they're saying that they're going to go east of Umbar Barhabel, visiting 4 new zones, encountering new culture, exploring the waste, and a vast complex that serves as the staging ground for the instances and raid included with the expansion pack. Sounds very cool. All right. So, Donner says, good evening, everybody. Hello. We were just looking over the LOTRO producer's letter for 2024. Before we get into plugin development type stuff. Okay, so where were we? Oh, Ambrite says, it'd be cool if the River Hobbit writing posture could be toggleable for standard Hobbits. And asks, how hard would that be to do program-wise? I don't have a good answer for you because I have done very little game-style graphics programming in my life. But from a lore perspective, I can understand why they would want to keep the different races looking distinct, even though there are similarities between river hobbits and hobbits, given that, schisms maybe not quite the right word, but the splitting of them happened so long ago, you would expect that they would develop unique customs and habits. And so just being able to switch from one to the other, maybe they wouldn't want to do that from a lore perspective. From a coding perspective, the answer, I mean, without knowing details about the systems, I would have to say anywhere between a few minutes to a few weeks, right? Like, chances are plausible that there's like a racial tag that links it to a set of animations for horse riding, but whether or not you could do just horse riding or whether that tag like does all emote style movements, you'd have to know much more about the code than I do. So if they've broken sets of emotes into riding and emotes and running around type stuff, and those are all sort of different things that you could tie to different racial performances, maybe that would be a very fast change. But would you design your system that way to support that in the first place? It's hard to believe that they would. It's easier to believe that River Hobbit animations would just be a single large clump. So yeah, but the real answer is it's so dependent on what the code looks like, how it ties together with all the various animations, and so I I cannot do anything more than waffle. In Festival Buddy, we were looking at how Festival Buddy saves stuff about your progress to the save file. And because of that, we should probably pull up a save file. Now, I've just unloaded it to make sure that we have some save files saved out. And we're going to come on into Documents, Lord of the Rings Online, Plugin Data, and then there's 4 files that we found information about, or we're looking into. There's Festival Buddy settings.plugin, Festival Buddy character data.plugin, Festival Buddy server settings.plugin, and Festival Buddy account settings.plugin. And we didn't find anything that needed to be fixed in the last 2. So we're just focusing on the first 2, Festival Buddy settings.plugin data and Festival Buddy care data plugin. Fantastic. We were going to start with one of the easier ones. Maybe. But first, let's go ahead and load those files up. So we are in Treebeard, and we're doing all characters, and that was the care data, I believe. Awesome. We'll get that up here, and there was also the character-specific one. Great. Now, of course, these are not helpfully named because this thing called care data is data about characters, but it's stored at the server level. And I would appreciate if it were something to indicate that. Maybe characters data, cares data for short. Care data makes it sound very much like it's the data for a single character. And from a naming perspective, that just feels misleading. Anytime I see care data, I've got to remember that's the server-wide data for characters, and it doesn't feel well indicated in the name. But once upon a time, that could have been like the only save file, and so it didn't matter so much. We also have Festival Buddy settings, and that was for a while the only settings one, but then I added server settings and account settings. So this could have been character settings, but then you'd have a file called Festival Buddy care settings and then care data, and that way lies madness. So it's just as well that we just called it settings. But there's no real limit on... Oh, I shouldn't say that. It feels like there shouldn't be a limit on the length of the file name, but there is practical limits on the length of the path and file name for operating systems like Windows or Mac for those people who were playing this on the Mac when it was supported. Like that, you cannot get a path that has so many characters on some operating system. And so you might not want to name these too long. Where did I run into a problem with that? I'm trying to remember if I ran into a problem in LOTRO or if it was some other thing and it just stuck in my head adjacent to this. But I've run into problems where you try to do something with a file name and maybe it was a Lua limitation where it's like, oh no, you can only do like 64 characters or 128 characters, and we were running out of characters. I want to say, I think it was for D tracker, and I think it was because we were appending the name of the character to the save file name, and so you had to account for really long character names. So you find the longest character name that you can use, and then that limits the rest of the path length. Anyway, all that being said, you don't want to have ridiculously long plugin data names, but chars data, that could have worked. Chars or characters data. That would be nice. Yeah. Agartha says combat analysis was storing some of its data in file names with the name of the target embedded in it ran into file name length restrictions. And I have to assume that wasn't an operating system issue. That was like a Lua issue because Windows doesn't have there are limits on how long of a file name or a path you can have, but it's not that short. But I don't remember the specifics about it now. Okay, so that being said, we're going to go ahead and look at one of these. We've got them both up right now. Main problem with Festival Buddy settings, we can see we're using the numerical index in the order of the festivals as the key in each of those. That's not great. Or that's for the quick guides. And within the quick guides, interesting. Did we already fix this, or maybe I'm misremembering that it was a problem? The numerical index here is a problem. These keys, I feel like used to be. Maybe I'm remembering a different part of this. Okay, we'll keep on going then. So yes, those numerical indices, not good, but pervasive in the save file format. This was Festival Buddy settings, great. Yeah, numerical. So, done. That certainly looks done. Okay, we'll take a look in the code and see if we can figure that out. What did we do last week? Removed redundant loading, cool. Divided stuff into functions. I don't actually recall fixing that. Main. Fascinating. Okay, we will carry on. Quest guides to use also. We saw that was using indices. Oh, that's the quick guide. Right, I'm getting them backwards. Let's go ahead and mark some stuff off of a quick guide so we can see the problem that I was failing to see. We'll do the first 5 things here. Okay, back in here. Quick guide progress, that's what it is. We need it to be looking like these keys, and it is in fact just numbers. Awesome. So that's a problem. And those were the only 2 problems we found in here. So great. Let's move on to the character data. We have character I. Yep, that's a problem. Indices are numerical values for festivals. That's not good. Under cooldowns, let's find one. There we go. Under cooldowns, we see the localized names, and that is in itself a problem. because if you log in with German or French clients, those are not going to line up. So we'll need to go ahead and fix that. And tokens, these are again numerical indices in the order that they appear in the bar here, I think. We'll double check how that works. It could be that that is not a one-to-one and that it is okay. But it might be nice to use the serialized key for that thing instead of just a number. Cool. What else? Right. We started last week by adding a version, so saved card data version at the root. And that caused a problem because multiple points in the code assumed everything in the table and char data was data for a character, which is a reasonable thing to do. But it meant we had to edit the code to any place that was iterating through character data when character data dot chars, so that it could avoid looking at this version. Okay. Okay. Where would this be easiest? I feel like the cooldowns might be easiest. Did I feel like that before? Probably. So what we want to do is we need to do two things. When we're reading this in, we need to convert the cooldowns from the localized name to the key for that quest. And we have that in the strings file. Geode hunting. So in this, we're going through the process of taking this key here and then going through and localizing that key into English, French, or German and then using it. So we can just use geode hunting. We don't need to go ahead and do the localize. So it's actually doing one step less of work. And then when reading it back in, we might have to redo that step of work in order to compare it to something, for instance. But that's the idea, is use all caps geode hunting, the key here, instead of that name. So hopefully the places in the code that are writing this out into the settings also have access to the key at the same time. If not, it'll be more complicated than otherwise. All right, we'll slide that on over. Okay. So, cooldowns. Indices are localized quest names. Let's stop that. The save files that I'm using are brand new, and they don't have anything important in them, so if I mess them up, I can just delete them and reload Festival Buddy, and it'll start over from scratch. If you're doing plugin development like this, kind of live against your own data files, make sure you've made a backup of them, because if you mess up the data files, that's it. Everything's lost. The LOTRO by itself doesn't keep any backups. You as a plugin author can save backups, but the framework for doing that, you have to kind of reinvent the wheel. Or take inspiration. I think ThoroughLore does a rotating a list of backup files for reminders. So it'll be like backup 1, backup 2, backup 3, backup 4. I don't know what ThoroughLore was doing exceptionally with save files, but ThoroughLore was reporting issues of save files becoming corrupted. And I have to say, the only time I've ever had issues with the plugin datas being inconsistent is if the something went wrong with the client closing down, and it was in the middle of saving things, and then you hit Alt F4, or your computer crashed, or LOTRO crashed, or something like that. During normal shutdowns, I don't ever see problems with the data files. But because data loss is annoying, I do recommend that once in a while, maybe once a month, you just make a backup of your plugin data. Make a folder, backup 2024-01-09, and then just copy everything from your Lord of the Rings Online / plugin data directory to here. The most useful thing I find for that is actually the plugin options XML. If I'm too fast between shutting down LOTRO, logging off of one server and logging onto another server, this file will often be in a unreadable state, and so LOTRO will just generate a fresh one where everything is turned off for all characters, which is frustrating. But just having a backup of this file, and it's just a simple XML file, just for each plugin, which characters are looking at it. Did you find some fish? Does she have fish and you want it? No. Okay. You just sit there and be cute. Yeah, so the structure of this XML file is pretty straightforward, but recreating it, like remembering exactly which characters had which plugins turned on, annoying. And I change this rarely enough that a month-old version of this file, more than recent enough for most of my characters most of the time. So just a recommendation from me to you, just back that up once in a while. In general, even if you have a lot of characters, you're not talking about a lot of disk space. If I go into my plugin data directory, well, that doesn't work. If I go into my backup directory that I was just looking at somewhere here, backups. If I look at the backup that I did just last week, we can see mine does have 80 megs of files. When your mileage may vary whether that matters. But with backups going to the beginning of late 2021, going roughly monthly, there's like 1.7 gigabytes of files here. That's a lot, and if I had disk space issues, I would definitely be tempted to cull that down. But on modern hard drives, you may find that other things take much more. Like I have apparently half a terabyte free, so a gigabyte of data just is not that large. However, now that I say it, I am a little curious where what's using most of that space. So whenever I'm curious about that, I use a tool called WinDirstat, and I tell it, hey, go look at a specific directory and give me a visual on what's going on there. And in this case, we can see a lot of repetition because basically the same stuff is being backed up over and over and over. But within each of these, and you can see each one corresponds to a specific date. Within each of these are very similar. So now it makes me curious. Let's go ahead and just go into a single one of these. Why did I close that? WinDirstat. We're just going to go into a single one and what's going on here. So the biggest one is deed tracker. Of course it is. But the funny thing is, those are backups I took for my own purposes. The actual deed tracker files are pretty small in comparison. But I wanted backups of version 1 save files because I was running into issues. And you know what? I could just be without that. That would be pretty cool. So where is that? Backup. Evernight, all characters. Yeah. Well, I'm not seeing what I was seeing there. Why not? Oh, because, of course, it was on one of my test accounts. 7.3 Evernight, all characters. Well, we're just going to get rid of that. Nice. Well, I just deleted some stuff. I can tell it to refresh. And then it just redraws everything else out here. So there's those reminders backups I was talking about. So you can see reminders.plugin is there, and then backups 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are all there as well. But each one of them is only a few megabytes of size, which is impressive. Makes me wonder how he's storing things. Okay, I'm going to go off on so many tangents today. Okay, so if we go to all servers, and that is reminders, yeah. What's going on here? Fascinating. So one of the things that Reminders does is it stores the name of each quest that you complete. And so when you complete a quest, it can look in its database, essentially. It's a table of completed quests, and say, have you completed this before? And if it appears in that list, then it knows that this is a repeatable quest. The Lua interface between our plugins and the game doesn't allow you to say, hey, is such and such a quest repeatable? Even though in the quest dialog, there's usually yellow text if it is repeatable, or maybe it's repeatable but you haven't done it before, and a different color text if it's repeatable and you have done it before. That's information that we don't have as plugin developers. But this is a brute force method where you just save off the name of every quest you've completed, and then when you complete something, check to see, which works really great. But the way he's doing it, and this is sort of the easy mode version of it, but it's also a future-proof version, is you just save the name of it in its localized form. You don't try to make this cross-language capable, where if you complete Slaves to the Forge Advanced in English, and then you log into the German version, it knows that that's the same thing. So I think this is going to keep scaling up. The more quests that you complete, the more entries this needs. And then there's a little bit of details about everything else, but that's the big thing, is your list of completed quests. So if I just do a search for last completed, we can see there's 22,000 quests in here. And because this is under all servers, it is the completed quests for everyone. So this is server 6, Langsam. Server 2, Tideless. Oh, but Tideless with a... oh, that's funny. Tideless with a tilde. So that is a session play. Probably doesn't need to be in there. Server 6, Arda. And so, yeah, there's... In order for reminders to... You know what? I feel like you could split this out on a per character basis, because the auto detection of which quests you've completed should only come into play when you are completing a quest on a character, I think. I mean, unless there's something in the options where you can look at that. Anyway, if someone was looking to take over reminders from Thurlor, who is retired for now, from plugin development, that would be a thing I'd be tempted to look at, is... 2.5 megs, not the biggest deal, but that does mean you're loading that every time you load the Reminders plugin. You're parsing 2.5 megs, sticking it into memory, and for the auto reminders quests section, maybe that's not necessary. And for a lot of these character-specific things, maybe it's not necessary. I'm not sure. Be interesting to see what features you would lose from reminders by not having ready access to this information all the time. Anyway, enough about different plugins, save files, and whether or not there are issues. So, KDE Live, I really recommend it as a tool for visualizing how your disk space is being used. Fascinating. Cool. Okay. So let's look at where we're loading in the cooldowns. And so this is going to be in probably main. and we're in a function called load server-wide character data. Hopefully a little bit more sensible of a name. So, update old format to new format. This was pre-existing update code. Now we've stuck it behind the you don't have a file version. And removing session play characters. Awesome. At this point, we have updated to pre-me Festival Buddy save file. So we're good to move on. Awesome. And here's where we're going to have to remove the version from the file in order to process this multiple times. Or we would just end up deleting the file over and over. That'd be fine too. If we're going to do that, we should be prepared to go to Treebeard, all characters. And for that, we would delete the char data and then load. Okay, and we have a char data. Awesome. And everything's under characters. Cool. So all that's working. We should be able to see this in the cooldown section for festival number 3, whatever that happens to be. Autumn, probably. Okay. What do we have? Change cooldown keys from localized quest names to quest keys. This is where we left off. And so what we want to do, we're in for player name festival table. Yep. So we're iterating through this festival here. And so what we would not want is local cooldowns equals, and that's going to be festivals table cooldowns. Now it may end up that we don't actually need to take this local variable, but I'm just sort of getting started here, fighting against momentum by writing code. Okay, and then so for each one of these keys, so for localized quest name, and then value in pairs of, say, oh, can we do pairs? Oh, I don't think we can do pairs there. Does I pairs work there? Possibly. Let's go ahead and do both of them. We'll test both of them. So saved char data dot chars. We're doing player name, and then oh no, we can just do cooldowns. Right. That was one reason to save that. For that, do end, and then we'll do turbine.shell.writeLine, just a quick little debug of localized quest name. So let's take a look at that. So, reminder, in order to get this to trigger easily, I'm going to be deleting this character data in between loads. But I'll probably do it off screen because it's a little bit easier to grab that way. Okay, so let's grab the plugins folder. And we can see we did not get any output there. So let's do I pairs instead. Also none. Okay, turbine.shell.writeLine checking cooldowns for player name. Well, that didn't get anything at all. Why not? Updating 1.0 to 1.1. Okay, so we can see updating 1.0 to 1.1. Awesome. The problem is we have an empty file, so the info for this character hasn't been written yet. So one of the nice things about having monthly backups for the last 2 years is I can come on in off screen here, and in my backups, go grab something from late last year, and this will just be copying in from the all characters folder the festival buddy dot care data. There we go. But I do have to remember to do it after the plugin's unloaded. Cool. Okay, so copy that over, replace the file, load this. So we can see moving data for def under cares, awesome. That all is all great, but what's going on here? Awesome. Checking cooldown for window. I had put iPairs on the wrong loop there, so that was the first problem. But we do see main 259, bad argument to pairs, table expected, got nil. Well, fantastic. First of all, we should check if cooldowns is nil. If cooldowns is not equal, if cooldowns is fine, then we want to go ahead and deal with the cooldowns. Why would cooldowns not be? Well, we can see how the table is empty in the output here. But let's see. It was empty there too. Interesting. I mean, it should be there. But let's go ahead and just make sure. Okay, so checking cooldowns for each of these. Awesome. But we still didn't get iterating through those names for those festivals that had the cooldowns. So let's try it with iPairs instead. Nope. So let's check our understanding of how to iterate through a table that doesn't have numerical indices. Lua, iPairs. What does iPairs do and how is it different? What? No. Yeah, iPairs should iterate through all the elements, yes. Pairs function. Oh. Wait, what's the point of iPairs then? Okay, I'm misremembering. iPairs is in fact the wrong way to go for this. Neat. But I do wonder about cooldowns here. Let's check to see. Maybe all of them are nil because we've done something wrong. So we're going to come on in here, And reload. Hey, cooldowns is nil for all of those. So we're definitely doing something wrong here. Not surprisingly, that does happen. So what we really want to do is, if it's nil, and it is, then let's go ahead and turbine.shell.writeLine. And this was festival tables. We want to dump that out, get a textual representation of that table. That was going to be silly long. That's okay. Oh, of course, we were going straight for cooldowns. We need to iterate one more time. So we need to do for, and this is going to be festival number, festival data, in pairs of festivals table. Do. And then we can do stuff. End. Okay, well, I left that really big one in there. So let's, oh, that was for dumping it if it was null. Okay, so if we unload that, put our quest save file back. JT in chat says, hello, I'm learning Python at work, so this is awesome. Awesome. Yeah, Lua is a little bit different, but it's pretty understandable, especially if you know other programming languages. Instead of doing braces for loops, where you might see in like a C, C++, C# inspired language, it's a little bit more like your basic language where you use textual. Do this and then end the loop. Hagrid says, Python, programming as Guido intended. Is he still the dictator for life, or did he finally give that up? Oh, then. Okay, so we need festival table, and that's going to be the festival number. No, we don't need that. We just need festival data. Awesome. So, we've got, hopefully a little bit more understanding. So, for each one of these characters, awesome, localized quest name, oh my goodness. Who's got the French and the German? Zaman, awesome. So this is kind of what I was talking about, is if we look at Zaman here, we have German and French and English all mixed together. And there's probable that a non-zero number of them refer to the same quest, which is frustrating. Time for Water 2.0. Now, there is a question of what happens when there's multiples of these. That was something I hadn't really thought about, but if this could exist in the wild. So what we can see is that the cooldowns are either 0 or not 0. And I think I would prefer a not 0. Because we don't know when this update is going to happen. I'd like to say, oh, of course people will update before the next festival, but that's not realistic. So if there's a 0 value, overwrite it with a not 0 value. If there's a not 0 value and a not 0 value, then probably figure out which one is later and defer to that. And for that, we'll just need to treat this like a number. Okay, so we're doing good. We're iterating through things fine. So we're checking cooldowns for the player name. Cool, we're in the right stuff. We're seeing the localized quest name as expected in the output. Awesome. So now that we're back on track here. What's up?
She's on the video.
Okay. What we want to do is we want to write the code that will transform these. So we have the localized quest name, and so what we need, we also have the festival number, and so what we need to do is iterate through, because we don't have a good alternative to this. Are these always debuffs? Hang on. Okay, so alt window. It would be in here. Harvest math. Let's look at that. Okay. Yes. So we can see the exact problem that we're talking about here. In Xamon, we can see German and French and English all being represented because those are the values that are saved in the file. Yeah, I've got German apple bobbing, I think. Fantastic. So where are we getting our information? Okay, what is V? Okay, that's the value in cooldowns. Great. Where are we? Refresh alt display. Yes. Yes, but are these? Okay. Cooldowns, cooldowns. That's where we are right now. Okay, cooldowns and debuffs seem to be the same thing. Debuff found. Awesome. So we're looking at the debuffs, and that's actually a lot easier for our purposes. So if we're back in main here, then we can get we can write a quick little function to do this separately. So function get debuff key from localized name. So we don't know what language this is. Localized debuff name. We don't know what language this is. So for each possibility, we're going to have to check against the different languages that we have in there. So what that'll look like is for, and that's going to be festival number, comma, festival debuffs in, and this is lang dot debuffs. I'm going to switch dot notation there. Do end. Okay, what does that look like? So we're iterating through each of these festivals. Then for this will be debuff key, and debuff index, debuff data in festival debuffs, do end, and then we have this data here. So we have local. Well, we have the name in English, French, and German. Awesome. So if localized debuff name equals debuff data dot name dot English, then return what? Debuff data dot key. End. So that's the first thing. Now, can we do this a little bit smarter? Maybe. We could iterate through again. We could iterate through name, which is its own table. We don't actually care what language it is, just what the key ends up being. So for, this is iterating through name, so for language, comma, debuff name in, and here I want to actually call it localized debuff name, which is a problem. Debuff name to check, maybe. So for language, local debuff in this dot name, do, and then we can have our check, which is if the localized debuff name equals this, then return that. We could even return the language also as a tuple, but it's probably fine for now. We'll reserve the right. So let's document this before we forget what we've just written. Gets the debuff key. For example given would be in English a mnemonic for e.g. Apple bobbing for localized debuff name. Apple tauchen. Apfel. Okay, debuff to check, that is a string, returning also a string. Great. If no key is found, returns the original string instead. Okay, so if we wanted to call this, then local debuff key equals get debuff key from localized name, localized quest name. Also, we can see that that's not a quest name at all. It should be a debuff name. And then we can pass that in. And then just to make sure we're doing it the way we want, we'll call a quick little write line, debuff key, found for debuff Okay, let's see what that looks like. Now we're going to go ahead and come back into our character data and just load that back in, and we can see there was a problem. Okay, attempt to call a table value 279. Okay, what did we do? Okay, for festival number festival in Lang and debuffs. Well, I sure could have done that. Sure, Lang Is it in others? Is that the problem? No? Playing debuffs. I don't think I understand what this is saying. Okay, 279. Well, where is this getting called? Okay, so we moved all of the character data, and then attempting an index field question mark a nil value. 686. Really? Did I actually write something? I didn't. Why is that nil? Oh, that's weird. Okay, well, when in doubt, take a step back, undo. Okay. Oh, I forgot to save off our state before we got into this. Should probably do that. Moved character data in car data under cars entry. So that was this change here. We can see same thing there. And main win, character cares, yep, stage, cares. It's going to make it a lot easier to undo mistakes if we do this first. Okay, what's going on in main? That might be a little bit easier to do in another window. Okay. So we check for if it's nil and we make it a table first. And then we check for the version. Oh, we rolled the setting of it to version 1.0 in. Yeah, okay. We moved that deep copy to the very end of the saved care data. Okay. And we're operating on saved care data in the meantime. That's all fine. But we don't copy it over until we're done with that. Okay. So let's go ahead and remove the stuff that we were looking at doing here, since it's not working anyway. I've just nipped that over to a different window there. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. And that. And all of these. Cool. So we can come on back here, put those parts back that we pulled out. But now we're still crashing. That's so weird. Okay, so that's 686 in main win. But this is a nested access, so it's hard to tell what it is. So local character data equals, and we're going to go ahead and save that off. And then local cooldowns equals, and we're going to save that off. And then local debuff equals, oh, but of course we can use character data here. And debuff equals that. So cooldowns debuff name. And then we can say debuff equals 0. We can't do that, can we? We can say that equals 0. Man, sometimes I miss pointers from C. Okay. Implicit references are great until they are not. Okay, now we have a specific. Line 87, attempt to index the local character data, which is nil. Okay. So turbine.shell. You know what? I think it's time to hoist out some debug functionality from Deed Tracker that I'm so used to using. So we're going to go into plugins, Cube plugins. That's me, Deed Tracker, and we're looking for some general functions like debug and info. And we're going to put that into general functions here, which it might actually already have one that I've forgotten about. I don't see one though. So we're going to go ahead and add in function debug with a message. And then we need settings.verbose output. Sure. We're not going to bother with that right now. Hang on. What order do these get pulled in at? General functions first, globals later. Sure, okay. So equals true. We're just going to put that for right now. Okay, so we have some general functions. If we're not doing verbose output, then we don't do a debug message. For info, always do it if it has a message, and they're in different colors. Awesome. I'll just make it a little bit easier to write what we want to write. Okay, so debug name my car get name. 688. Okay. Maybe we'll just do it as info then. Yeah, okay. So name Bavaker, not in there. Why is it not in there? It sure is in there. So what are we seeing? Care data. Okay, just a sanity check. When we want to dump it out afterward, we get a whole bunch of stuff. And before, we get nothing. Attempt to index local character data. It really doesn't seem like that should be the case. So we're going to go ahead and nix those because we know care data is being set. Oh, are we missing a cares there? How? Okay. We are missing a thing. Fantastic. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of everything I just did there because somehow our care data access should have been a .cares and we missed it? I don't know. Something about having this window open sent us down an alternate path that made it sad. Fantastic. Well, that was more of my life than I wanted to spend on that particular bug. So we're going to come on in and say missed a reference. In fact, we should probably make sure we didn't miss anything else while we're at it. I wouldn't have thought it was possible. So we're going to find all uses of care data and make sure they have that cares entry. Okay, so .cares, 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 .cares. That makes the table, okay. Saves it, copies it, .cares, .cares, .cares. Well, I don't know how I missed it, but we're back. So, we can go ahead and uncomment some of this stuff. Fantastic. Let's fix that. Okay, resetting the care data file, coming back in. Awesome. Well, it wasn't going to fix everything. Oh, oops, that one was supposed to be commented. Okay, line 280. We're back. We're back where we were. So it says attempt to call a table value. I don't feel like I am attempting to call a table value. Well, it sure would be nice if I called pairs on debuffs. Fantastic. Okay. My goodness. So, we are finding the keys found. We are seeing that we're finding all of the keys that we're looking for. That's really good. We're not seeing anything that wasn't found. And we can see, yeah, found villain for méchant, or some variation of that. My apologies. Awesome. So here's where we want to do the consolidation. Now that we've got that. Okay. But we found the debuff key that we wanted. So what we really want is, if the key is already in the cooldowns table, then prefer a non-zero number to a 0, and prefer a larger non-zero number to a smaller non-zero number. So, if cooldowns debuff key, then else end. So if it's not in there, then that makes our life super easy. Can't help but notice my indentation is off. I have to deal with that. Okay. Did tabs sneak in? They did not. That's just really weird. Okay, well, I'm not sure why the white space was messed up, but it looks better now. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and, if it's in there, then we want to do something else. But if it's not in there, then cooldowns debuff key equals value. Let's take a look and see what that would look like. So we're going to unload this just by itself. And then we're going to load this. And we'll need to unload it again to see it in the file. So we can see scroll searching, pumpkin picking. Cool. But we didn't see treasure hunting and lockbox. What's up with that? That should be TH lockbox. Okay. We certainly found that in Zamon's. Well, that's strange. Oh, because we only inserted the value if we, no? That's strange. Okay, we'll keep looking at this. So what we need to do is say if it is in there, then if value equals 0, then it doesn't matter, right? Cooldowns debuff key equals value. Oh, not if value. Sorry, we need the if cooldowns of localized debuff name. Oh, that would be this value. Well, what am I assigning to here? The same thing. Yes. No. Okay, so we need this value. So if the value we're putting in is not 0, then we need to do something. Do I actually care? What if if the value is that we're putting in I have too many things here that are not properly named. We have the localized debuff name and the corresponding value. And then we want to compare that against the thing that's already stored in debuff key. So we need localized value, and we need local key value. So if the debuff key exists, then local key value equals cooldown debuff key. And then if the localized value is greater than the key value, then go ahead and set that to be the localized value. End. And otherwise, we're just setting the localized value into that new spot. Maybe that makes sense. Definitely need to add some comments to justify all of this. Okay, the last thing we need to do, and we can see I'm still not sure about this because oh, of course. We're repopulating it because we haven't gotten rid of that. Yes. That makes more sense. Cool. So in our code, we need to go ahead and kill the old version of this. So after one of these two things, then cooldowns of the localized debuff name equals nil. So we need to clean that up either way. And then any place that refers to cooldowns needs to start using this new system. Let's go ahead and see that in action though. And I'm noticing we are approaching 2 hours here. So I think if I can, okay, we can see those coming in. That's good. Yeah, actually, I'm going to step away for a moment because I do want to finish this, but I need to step away and I'll be right back. Okay. Well, with that taken care of, I think we're ready to keep going on fixing this up. So, what I think is happening is, here, let's load the other one, is that we're seeing in cooldowns, well, these things exist here though. I think I need to create a custom file that has stuff in it, but not as much stuff. So let's do that. Let's come into this one that I've been using, and I'm going to make a custom version of it. And I really only care about the stuff for Bavakar at the moment. So we're going to go ahead and remove all of the other characters. One of these days I need to learn how to collapse all. Okay, there we go, Bavakar. So we're going to nix everything else. Just have Bavakar here and no one else. Okay, especially not Aphil. Okay. You just ran past me, Rosamund. Okay, Rosamund's doing me a favor, and I'm not communicating well what it is. Okay, so we have just the cooldowns from each of these, and so we really only care about the cooldowns from one of them, and that's, let's say, this one. So we have a new file, and we're just going to put it somewhere, and that'll be the one that we're using for this. So downloads. Okay, so now I have that minimal version of this. So we're going to go ahead and unload the plugin here. Copy that minimal version, and we can see that here, and then load this in. No data of alts, that's fine. In fact, I should probably just hide that. So we can see scroll switching and pumpkin picking, awesome, but what I don't see is anything else. And that's a concern. So I want to go ahead and switch characters here for a minute while I think about this. Can't take that tool with you. Okay, so what's going on here? I'm fine with these being here. I think it's auto-populating. But what I'm concerned about is why we're only seeing 2 of the new keys coming in. So I want to put some of those debug statements back. And actually we're going to do some comments here because my goodness, is this just a block of code. So for each player's festival data, for each festival in the festival data, right, resin bloom, invite. And then within this, check the cooldowns for this character, festival of this character. Yay. our hunter has traveled to Aldburg finally, and I'm a little jealous of that, and I want to get those stable masters going. Thanks, Rosenblum. Thank you. Stable mastered. Awesome. But we'll get some more Rohan in the distance. Vaz says, asks for comments and unit tests. Got to pump that code coverage up. Yeah, I think unit test for plugin code would be really interesting, but there's so much data and game state that would be difficult to simulate that I worry that you'd spend a lot more effort actually. I mean, certainly for helper functions, like here is data, spit something out. You could definitely have unit tests for that. But, if you're interrogating the state of the game, if you could have a mock object, that would be cool. And I think you could probably make something like, here is the thing to treat as if it is turbine.engine. You could pass that along. Hey, Kato. What's up? You want to look in the camera? It's right here. No? Well. Treat. We should reward you for being near us. With junk food! No, that's not quite. There you go. Yeah, so I'm all about unit tests in general, but it's kind of a time and a place kind of thing for that. Hey, Western Rohan, awesome. So, if cooldowns, then for each debuff listed, convert to using debuff key instead of localized value. Okay, so that gives us, bye. That gives us a sense of what we're doing for future us, specifically a week from now, me. And then we're going to go ahead and, so info found key. I feel like I've already done this once. For debuff and that localized debuff name. Cool. So let's go ahead and hear a cat making weird noises behind me. They're play fighting, but not on camera? Maybe they're on camera. Yes. Good job, cats. It's a bit of a standoff now. All right, let's go ahead and make that plugins tab and load. No? Okay. Okay. So we've loaded stuff, but yeah, hey you. Yeah, we saw. This is very exciting. Yeah, you get good and clean-ish. Okay, so found key, scroll searching for debuff, scroll searching, pumpkin picking, extra villain protagonist theater. Awesome. So we are seeing the thing. So what is wrong? Cooldowns equals, and setting the localized to not. I think we're going to pause here and say, let's look for all the places where cooldowns is used and start changing those to make use of this new system. So that's our to-do item. Don't need to worry about that. So in cooldowns, we have key and value. K is the important one here. And here we are, set text K. What we want to do is get string, and that's going to be lang.debuffs. Do we have a festival? We do have selected festival. Awesome. Debuffs, selected festival, and within that, oh, why is it sorted like this? I think I did that in order to be able to fix a different problem. I think I actually remember doing this. Okay, so I was attempting to solve a problem, and I did it poorly because I was attempting to solve the problem of we want to sort the debuffs in a specific way in the UI, not just have it be a random appearance. You didn't actually escape the camera. No, he didn't. So we want to be able to sort the things in the UI, but it makes this part more annoying. What we really would like is a separation between the strings and the UI presentation. The way I modified lang.debuffs to allow for ordering in the UI makes it harder to find a debuff. Consider a separate table that controls the UI ordering, ? And not as part of lang. Okay, that's a problem for later. For right now, we can just make a helper function that takes care of this. And so we had festival functions. Sure, let's make a festival function. So we're going to make function get debuff key from, no, sorry, get debuff table from debuff key. Debuff key. Cool. Returns the lang.debuff festival entry that matches the given key. Sure. And that is a string. And that's going to return a table. Cool. I forgot to actually have the return. There we go. So what we want to do is, do we want the festival? Sure, let's take the festival. Festival. I mean, it doesn't really matter. And this is very similar, or feels very similar to the function we made here, which was get the debuff key from localized name. Oh, yeah. And here we're taking that key and getting the index. Yeah. Well, let's start with this. Okay, so festival number, festival debuffs in there, and debuff index debuff data in there. Don't need that. If debuff data dot key equals debuff key, then return debuff index. End. And otherwise return 1. Oh. I said I was returning a table, didn't I? Nope, we're calling it debuff index instead. Index. Match is given the key, and that is an int integer. And we'll give that a try. So in the all-twin, local debuff index equals get debuff index from key. Festival is integer. Oh, you know, I ended up not using it. Never mind. That is k. Is it? What is k? Pairs in cooldowns. Yes, cooldowns. Yes, so k is the name, but it's going to be the key. And then local debuff name equals get string from lang dot debuffs. Oh, it's right here even. And then that's going to be debuff index dot name. So that is the debuff name, and then we can use that instead of k. Awesome. However, k hasn't gone dark here, so it seems like it might be, oh well, it's used there. Yes. Awesome. Well, let's take a look at that. Well, that might not be complete. Let's keep going. Okay, so we have cooldowns there. Great. If it's empty, then set it to a new one. Okay. And the check festival data. Yeah. Cooldowns equals this. This is in that conversion code. Awesome. And in the refresh debuff view, debuff name here is get string from v dot name, but we could use v dot key instead. Okay, so that's each of those. Let's take a look. v.key, 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 v.key. Okay. So, bringing in that save file again, let's go ahead and load it. Found key, awesome. Let's unload. And we didn't get anything else because that's been done. Awesome. What does it look like? Cooldowns, 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 scroll searching, pumpkin picking. It's killing me. What am I missing? But here, villain extra protagonist theater. That's great. Hang on a sec. Why is Galerda? Oh, of course Galerda is in here. Because I was switched to Galerda. Galerda. Okay, we're going to go ahead and update our test file to include Galerda for a minute. Okay. That being said, let's load this in and unload it and take a look. So we have Karas, Galerda, that's it. Awesome. And we just have pumpkin picking. You know what the problem is? Well, I don't know what the problem is, but I'm guessing the problem is I'm mutating the table while trying to iterate through it, and that is a no-no. That is such a no-no that I'm surprised I even bothered to do it. What we need to do is, while we are iterating through, when we say cooldowns here, when we modify that, we are currently iterating it through it, and these are, we're not allowed to be changing the collection like that. So local keys to delete equals that table. We then go ahead and say keys to delete we can go ahead and table insert key and then localize debuff name. And then after we're done with this, we can go ahead and for KV in pairs keys to delete do and it'll be that cooldowns of that value equals nil. Let's see if that fixes all of our problems magically. Well, it did not. Apparently, when I say keys, it's sounding like the Dutch keys to choose. When Redhead has said it keys not to delete. Okay, that did not work sufficiently. So what we want to take a look at is info cooldowns before modification. Just before cooldowns. And we'll do the same thing after we're done with all this. Because we want to know, is the change even happening? I think the answer is probably not. Okay, movie data for Calerta under cares. Before, after, before, after, before, after. I'd really like to be able to check for empty tables here. Maybe I could at least be inside the if statement, just in case. Okay, so before, yeah, we only found pumpkin pickin'. What's going on with that? Okay, so we found all of the ones for Yule. Where it had programmers in them as empty keys and empty tables. Now my code is full of bugs. Okay, we're finding everything for Yule. So what we're seeing is it's just in this sample, in this test file, it's just in harvest. So I guess an obvious question would be, why? Because it should be finding the th lockbox. So we've got a function here. We are going through cooldowns.
You have to turn the camera up a little.
I see there's a cat in the background. Good enough. Also a slightly messy table, but the underside. Okay. Okay. So we're finding a debuff key. Looking up. Because I just want to make sure that we're actually seeing these things as we iterate through. I'm afraid we're not. I'm afraid that's the trouble. Okay, so scroll back down to the bottom.
Yeah, they're still negotiating.
Yeah, we're going to stand off Casper. Okay, scrolling on down to the bottom. We have cooldowns after. That's awesome. Looking up pumpkin pickin', cooldowns before. Found it. And then we just skipped to cooldowns after. So, why? We're going through pairs, right? So... Okay, I gotta test something. So I'm gonna iterate through this thing without doing anything to it at all and get a sense of what is going on here. And then if cooldowns... Let's see, how do I test for an empty table? Lua, test for empty table, because I would like to stop seeing that. Okay, if cooldowns and next cooldowns is not equal to nil. Let's see if that works. Ah, much better. Okay. So cooldowns before this. We iterate through it all and we see everything. Yes. But then we actually only look up a single thing. What's going on here? Cooldowns before. When we iterate through, we get everything. Awesome. Math in chat says, good day. What is the program you're using there to code with as the bluish ribbon looking icon? So, if you are, let's see, which one are you talking about? So, I'm using a couple different programs today. I'm using Visual Studio Code, which is this window here. This is downloadable for free. If you do a search for Visual Studio Code, you can use it. And there's a Lua extension, which is very handy for coding in Lua, which this is. And then there's a LOTRO API extension on top of that, which is very handy if you're writing Lord of the Rings Online plugins, as we are doing today. I'm also popping into Sublime Text, which is a very handy text editor. And I just like being able to look at that outside of Visual Studio Code. It would probably do fine with it in there. In fact, just for kicks, it's not a .lua file, so it doesn't realize it's .lua, but we can force it to do that. And then we can see we get all the syntax highlighting we would want from Lua. Including any errors? Don't see any errors. Awesome. So those are the two main ones I'm bipping back and forth between. I also have for source control, I'm using fork, available from fork.dev. And that's the source control that we're using to make sure we don't make too many mistakes. Checking in chat says there's lots of nice programs you can use for Lua. Personally, I'm addicted to Notepad++. Absolutely. This is a field that is wide open for possibilities, but I did want to get a little bit more experience working with Visual Studio Code because it's also come up in some other areas, and so this was a good excuse to kind of ramp up with Visual Studio Code. Plus, community member Lunarwater made this lovely extension that includes all the LOTRO API stuff as well, which is what is giving me the ability to type in, say, a turbine dot and get all the IntelliSense that you would want for that. I'm sure it's possible to do that kind of thing for Notepad++, but that already exists here. And so I can go into .engine and, oh, here are the things I can do, and we have the IntelliSense for each of the functions there. I found that incredibly helpful for the specific purpose of writing LOTRO plugins. But certainly I wrote plugins before having that IntelliSense available. It's very possible. And today, I suspect my problem has nothing to do with LOTRO or Turbine, and has everything to do with me messing something important up here. We're trying to iterate through this in pairs, and the first time we do it, we see everything we're looking for, and the second time, we find a single thing and stop. And so what am I doing in this specific function right here? Checking says, I love how it color codes everything. It looks really handy. Yeah, the color coding is definitely not limited to Visual Studio Code. Sublime Text will do it if I feed it a .lua file, or if I tell it is .lua. Sorry, not .lua, just Lua. It'll do syntax highlighting as well, as I'm sure Notepad++ does as well. The IntelliSense, I find it super handy. Sometimes a little flaky, but it's definitely nice for especially parameter stuff. If I'm calling, turbine.shell.writeLine, we can see what we're expecting, a string, and that, so especially when a function takes multiple parameters and there's an ordering to them, having that IntelliSense is very handy. Okay, so we get the key. We say we found the key. We start doing things. We start changing the table. Okay. Well, just for kicks, let's stop changing the table and see if we iterate through. If you haven't seen it yet today, Little Red Head has just told Moobot to put a link into chat to the Letter to the Players 2024, which lays out the roadmap for Lord of the Rings Online for the coming year. Definitely check that out, lotro.com/news. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and load this. Hey, look at that. When you don't modify the table, iterating through the table works better. Checking says, ooh, new letter, I'm on it. Absolutely, there's a lot of fun stuff in there. Okay, so if you're not modifying the table during iteration, oh my goodness, it works so much better. But that means why is that a problem? Modify table values while iterating. Oh, it's the creating of new keys? Is that what's up? Behavioral of next is undefined if during the traversal you assign any value to a non-existent field in the table. Right, well that would certainly do it. In that case, local keys to add. So, in here, if it contains the key, we can update it in situ. Let's say keys to modify. Well, the problem is tracking multiples of these. Okay, so if we were to say updated cooldowns equals, and what do we have? Deep copy. Do we use that? Yep, okay. Deep copy, and we're going to pass in cooldowns. So any place that we're looking at this. So if update cooldowns, cooldowns updated. So we're going to iterate through cooldowns, but we're going to be looking at updated cooldowns for all of this. So if updated ones has the key already, awesome, we'll change it there. Otherwise, we'll insert it into updated. And you know what? We can just say updated cooldowns. Localize debuff name. We can do that here because we're doing it in a copy. But then we want to go ahead and say we want to put cooldowns back. So festival that, cooldowns, deep copy. And we should probably spell cooldowns correctly. Just, yeah, why not? Okay. Well, let's see what happens if we don't modify a collection while iterating through it. You know, like you're supposed to. Okay. And after should. We should make sure when we're doing the after. That's after the deep copy. Okay, good. Okay, so coming back in, cooldowns before, we have each of these. Then we go through. We iterate through them unnecessarily now. Neat. Kill that. And then we look up each one of these. Awesome. And then the cooldowns after is unchanged. Okay. Oh, of course. I dumped cooldowns, but I wanted to make sure that the thing I was updating was the source, because again, I don't have pointers because this isn't C. Okay. So, I'm seeing some promising stuff there. We've looked up all these things, we found them. Updated cooldowns after, great. And then cooldowns after, awesome. And then we can see the same thing over here. So that's very promising. We're going to go ahead and kill some of this output, probably. But in the meantime, let's get in a better source file. Okay, fantastic. Attempt to compare nil with a number. All right, let's see what that nil would have been. All right, main 282, I don't understand you. Let's see if a couple two-number updates in there help out. What do you do? Attempt to compare nil with a number. I mean, it shouldn't be, but let's go ahead and dig into it. If localized value equals nil, then info. I mean, that's really it. Local value equals nil. End. If key value equals nil, then same thing. Now we're going to just double check that that is happening. Awesome. We are seeing it. Therefore, my min or mind in chat says, can you make a plugin for where crafting nodes are in the world? Well, I don't actually need to do that because the LOTRO Companion, which is a downloadable program, can give you information like that. Let's take a look and see what that looks like. Once you've got LOTRO Companion downloaded and installed, we can go over to the Maps section over here and go to Resource Maps. And that's going to pull up a little window. It's got to think a little bit. But let's say you're looking for scholar nodes and you want to find artisan nodes. Then these locations have them. For instance, in the Trollshaws, you can find artisan nodes in these locations. In the Lone Lands, you can find them all over Agamar and Harlug. In Numenos, you can find them just in the city. That's all. But in Avendim proper, just outside the city of Numenos, yep. Angle of Methithel, and little notes here and there. Of course, Scholar is the kind of more rare one because you're looking for those places of lost civilization. So if you're looking for Artisan Prospector, you can find that all over the Angle of Methithel, as an example. Or if you go to Avendim, not in the northeast of Avendim, but all over the west and south areas. So depending on what you're looking for, I tend to do Scholar because where you can find Scholar, you can find other things of that level. But it really depends what you're looking for. If you aren't a Scholar, or don't have Scholar plus something else, then yeah, pick the thing you're looking for, Forester. Maybe you're looking for Expert stuff. You can see Expert all over the eastern side of Avendim, for instance. So I'd recommend, rather than trying to get a plugin to do this, which it potentially could, you could take this and try to render it in a plugin, but you might do just as well to have this as a reference. So if you haven't tried it out, I never remember how to get it, but I do remember that the import instructions on the D tracker have a link to it. So, sure. You can see at searchforce.net/projects/LOTRO-Companion, that is a place to get it. Let's see. If I just type in LOTRO Companion, what do we get? Looks like the first link goes there, and the second one goes to the GitHub for it. So LOTRO Companion, detailed documentation here, quick start guide here, and so on. Min asked, do you work for SSG? If not, if I can ask, if so, you're my favorite dev. Well, thank you very much. I do not work for SSG, which explains why I have so much free time in my life. But thank you very much. I am a fan of both Lord of the Rings Online and writing plugins, so I like to bring some of that enthusiasm to other people as well. So I went ahead and tossed a link to where you can find LOTRO Companion's GitHub page at. There's instructions for how to get started there. If there's not a link to the download from there, I guess I'd find that very weird, but quick start guide here. Install the application here. Great. So click that quick start link and you can get started. So I really like LOTRO Companion for this kind of data display. Obviously, it's a lot easier if you have multiple displays. I have one display where I have the game and another display where I can have things like the LOTRO wiki or a tool like this. Gets a little bit harder if you're all on one display, but not impossible. I've certainly done that on a laptop. One of the things that you will find possibly useful in this resource map explorer is what things you can expect to find. For instance, if you're digging up expert stuff, you can expect to find chunks of rich iron ore, gold ore, ruby shards, clear rock salt, dark brimstone, flat whetstone, sapphires, and rubies. Whereas if you go over to Forester, you can expect to find wood, ruby shards, flax, pale flax, and amber resin. So that can be neat to kind of see what you should be expecting to find. If you're looking for gold specifically, you might already know that you're looking for expert prospector, but that could be helpful as well. Awesome. Cool. So, why were we seeing nil values? And I think the festival is less important here, but the player name could be nice. I think we already have the moving the data, so we have the player name. Okay, let's take a look at that. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff going on here. Moving data 4. Oh, that all happens first. Okay. Info. Updating cooldowns for player name. Neat. Okay. Try that again. Updating cooldowns for Zaman. Great. I mean, that doesn't explain why we're seeing a problem, though, but okay. Zaman, yes. Oh, because they're the ones who have this. And specifically, this is the Khafra. Tressa. Okay, and the problem is the key value. Yeah, I can see that. If the key's already in the cooldowns table, so if the updated once has that, then we need to get the localized debuff name from cooldowns for the key value. And then that might be sufficient. Couldn't tell you why it was working. Oh, because there were a bunch of zeros. Maybe that's why it was working. But this is why we test with real data instead of just an empty file. Fantastic. So let's go take a look at that save file. I'm looking at the wrong one. There we go. Okay, so looking at cooldowns now, we can see cooldowns is going great. We have exactly what we were looking for. The key instead of the localized quest name. And for Zaymon, that's actually a good question. How bad was Zaymon's before? So, in here, we had 4 of them for treasure hunting. And we had 4 of them in English and 4 in French. And now we can see the strong box, for instance. Definitely has a value. Okay. Apple bobbing, apple. Apple bobbing shouldn't be 0. So there's a logic problem there. This is exactly where a unit test could be very helpful. And the treasure hunting lockbox is a problem as well. Okay, let's take another look at that logic. But I think we are going to be wrapping up here in the near future. So if you do have any last minute questions, comments, concerns, toss them into chat there. And otherwise, we'll hopefully get to them next week. Oh, that's funny. Apparently I ran over so long that it's time to go do laundry. Fantastic. Okay. So if the updated cooldowns has this key, Man says, how long have you been making plugins? I started by... I think I was back to playing LOTRO after a very long absence in early 2019, and late 2019 was probably when I was trying to do modifications to the Minstrel Buff plugin. And that's a great place to start. If you're thinking about doing plugins, one of the best ways to get in there is to take an existing plugin and try to tweak it in a little way and see what happens, and figure out why did it work or why did it not work, and use the documented API, application programming interface, with how plugins work with LOTRO to experiment. You don't have to make a full plugin, you can just make little changes. So I guess a little over what year is it now? Maybe around 4 years of on and off. Like sometimes I'll go weeks or months without making significant progress on plugins, but that was one of the reasons I wanted to start streaming plugin development, because I thought, A, maybe it'll inspire some people or inform some people about what goes on behind the scenes with plugin development, and B, I definitely get a little progress every week during streaming, if no other time during the week. And so it's a chance to play around, and sometimes I'll be playing around with a plugin like Festival Buddy here that I didn't originally have intent to do, but people spoke up and asked about it, and I got into it, and suddenly I was using it or really interested in updating it in ways that I hadn't been before. Okay, so in the backup here, let's go ahead and take this data and grab specific things so we know what we're looking for. In the strings for us, okay, secret treasure chest, great. We know that is secret treasure chest. We know it's this one. We know it is also the coffer. Okay, we know it's this one. Oh, right. In French, they're named two identical things. That is unfortunate, and that's why we don't do things like that. Well, there's not much I can do about that. Okay. So we know that's those three. And so we can hope that secret treasure chest in the updated one did become something. Awesome. So that's the kind of test I'm going to do. I might do some of this offline and kind of dig through and figure out what's going on here. But that's the general process I'm going to do. Is I'm going to take these entries, find the one specifically for the treasure, but maybe divide all of them up for, into these 8 categories. So there should be about 24 of them. 27, 26, 25. Yeah, sounds about right. So go through that and figure out what's going on. And that will hopefully tell me whether there's a problem or not. Because my instinct is something might be wrong, but I don't actually know something's wrong. It could be just that I'm expecting some values where in fact they were all zeros. And so I'm going to dig into that. And with that, I think we've made a lot of progress today. And I'm just going to leave Hilarda here making some coffee. Looking up at one of the lovely locations in Rohan. Yeah, neat. Let's go ahead and check if I have anything else. I do not. So, with that, that is everything we're going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of Lord of the Rings Online plugins. I hope to see you here next week. And until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.